What is up, bestseller? Welcome into the Bestseller Playbook, where we talk about writing and selling books that last. I'm your host and best-selling author, Bob Wheatley, and today we are talking about editing. Now, there are three different stages when it comes to editing. You have first the developmental edit, then you have copy editing, and then you have proofreading. So what's the difference? What's the difference between a developmental edit, a copy edit, and proofreading? So let's first start with the dev edit, the developmental. The developmental edit is going to be the big chunks. It's going to be the overall book itself. We're less so worried about periods and commas. We're more so thinking about what does the entire project look like. So in a developmental edit, let's say you're working with a nonfiction book. You might take a look at your main pillars, the 5 tips, the 7 steps, whatever it is, and completely flip-flop and readjust. That is a developmental edit. It is the entire book. So the vast majority of your time is actually spent on the developmental edit portion of things. You could almost think of it like writing with professional help. In all likelihood, you bring a draft to the editor. You bring a draft to the publisher and say, hey, this is what I got. This is what I've been working on over the last 6, 12 months. What do you think? The developmental edit is their answer. It is here's what I think about your draft. So in the developmental edit, what you're doing is you're working in tandem with the editor, with the publisher to make your book that much better. So when you hear developmental edit, I want you to think macro. You're working on the macro things. You're adjusting the order of your chapters. You might even be deleting chapters. You might be adding chapters. You are, in a word, developing your book. It's the developmental edit. Now, step number 2, the copy edit. Once you step into copy editing, that means you've finished the developmental edit, and now it's time for the periods and commas and stuff like that. So we're narrowing the focus. It's like we're going down the book writing funnel, so to say. You start with your rough draft, then you do a developmental edit. Then you do a copy edit, which is going to be looking for typos and the syntax, the sentence structure, stuff like that. You already have the macro stuff in place. Now it's time to narrow the focus. Let's get crystal clear on the micro. So the copy edit is usually round 2 with your publisher. Maybe you've spent a couple of different exchanges in the developmental. You've got all your chapters in place. Now it's time to actually do the nitty-gritty digging in. You're still making significant tweaks, but it's going to be within the structure, within the skeleton that you've already set up. So the copy edit might be just around with your editor. That's usually they'll come with some suggestions as far as your sentence structure, the periods and commas, stuff like that. And then it is ultimately up to you as the author to apply or not apply their suggestions. But that is what a copy edit is. It's going to be the micro, not the macro. Final step of the process would be proofreading. Now, proofreading is really the last final check. It's like this airplane is about to take off. Let's do all the safety stuff. Let's make sure everything is in place. That's kind of what proofreading is. So you're not going to be doing crazy world-shattering adjustments here. You're really just checking to see if everything is correct. You're essentially checking your work if it was a math problem. So for me personally, after I've done a developmental edit, after I've done a copy edit, I literally will hire friends and family. I've had a couple of cousins, like younger cousins that are just trying to make a quick buck. I have hired them to just read my book, pay them an hourly rate, stuff like that. Say, hey, I'm going to send you a document. I'd love you to read it. And your goal is to find any typos. I'm still going to pay you whether you find it or not, but that's the goal. I want you to read slowly. You can even read it out loud if you want to, but find any typos. Is there anything that just reads funny or repeated words, stuff like that? That is what proofreading is. So it's less of an edit. It's more of a checking of your work. It is It's the final buffer between you and the end reader. Because ultimately, when somebody picks up your book, when they buy it at a Barnes and Noble or in an airport, or they listen to it on Audible, you want it to be awesome. You want it to be an amazing experience for them. And if your name is going to be on the cover of a book, then let's have it be awesome. This is you saying, hey, world, this is the best that I can do. And it's not the end of the world if there's a typo in a book, but I'm sure you've had the experience where you've seen that, or there's a sentence at the end of a paragraph that doesn't have a period. You're like, all right, well, that's a very clear typo. That's a misstep. That's an error. And when you see that, it just you tally those in your mind as the reader, and each and every typo or omission or whatever it might be, when you know it's wrong definitively, it tallies up in your mind. Okay, lack of professionalism, lack of professionalism, lack of professionalism. And so that is why all of these major publishers and multiple time best-selling authors, they go to such painstaking work to make the book awesome, to go through the developmental edit, to go through the copy edit, to go through proofreading, to make it as perfect, as close to perfect as possible. Now, there's other parts of a book launch that are equally important. You need to have an awesome cover. You need to have an awesome title. You need to have an awesome sales plan. It is there. It's like a symphony. There's a bunch of different things that are working together in unison. But when it comes to the editing process itself, the focus of today, again, like we said, there's three different stages. You start with the developmental. That's going to be macro. Then you move to the copy edit. That's going to be micro. Then finally, you move to proofreading, which is going to be your ultimate checking of the work. It's just making sure that everything is in the right place, making sure that you are ready to press send and deliver your product to the world. So hope this was helpful. Again, today we talked about editing, the editing process. If you have any questions that are outside of editing, that might be in writing in general or book launches or the world of publishing, all things books, leave me a comment. Love to hear what is top of mind for you, and I'm happy to answer that question on future videos. And again, when it comes to a best-selling book, just remember the shortest way to a best-selling book is having a best-selling plan. We'll see you next time.